firstly, are you surprised by this story, or is this the sort of thing that you'd have expected to be happening?
No, I'm not surprised. I think this story shows two things. One is that China is becoming a lot more active and intensive in trying to influence political opinion in the United Kingdom. But secondly, that the intelligence agencies are broadly on top of it and are taking the necessary actions to protect our democracy. In this particular case, they informed the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party dropped the potentially dangerous candidates. And so the system works in that sense.
Is it at all possible, Mark, that there is an MP in Parliament today who is under the influence of China? Is that possible?
Well, I think it is theoretically possible. I don't think we have any evidence that it's the case, but we do know that China, and not just China, of course, Russia has actually been a lot more active than China, but China is slightly more nuanced and clever in the way that it tries to achieve political influence to affect people's views of China and what it is doing in the world. But I don't think we should overreact either to this story or to the story of Chris Cash, who was arrested recently, because for two reasons, really. One is that there is a large grey area, lobbying governments, whether by NGOs, by the private sector, by foreign governments. I mean, that is all part of the pattern of democracy. Where it crosses the line into unacceptable behavior and possibly illegality is when that activity takes place clandestinely on behalf of a foreign country. And the second reason I don't think we should overreact to this is that, yes, of course, Parliament is at the heart of our democratic way of life, but it isn't the heart of our national security infrastructure. No doubt there are many secrets in Parliament, but very few of them are of a security or foreign policy nature.
I presume, though, that the dream, this presumably would never happen, but the dream would be to get someone into Parliament and then get them up the ladder where they do start to hear things that relate to national security.
Yes, I mean, that sort of sleeper activity, if you like, no doubt would be something that the Chinese government would be involved in. And we've seen in the past how damaging having a real insider in the executive branch of government can be, with people like Kim Philby, who was working for the Soviet Union whilst nominally being an MI6 officer for the United Kingdom intelligence services. So, of course, if it were possible to have a member of parliament who was actually operating on behalf of the Chinese government, that would be extremely damaging for the UK.
Yeah. Just finally, if you were still advising the government, Mark, does it matter that China is there's a semantic debate? Is it a challenge? Is it a threat? Is it clear in your mind that China is a threat, at least from a national security point of view?
Yes, of course it is a threat from a national security point of view, but I don't quibble with the government's characterization of this. It was set out very clearly in the policy refresh earlier this year, and I think it's actually the right approach, that yes, we should protect ourselves from the security threat that China poses. We should align ourselves with allies in the region, as we are doing with France, with Japan, with Australia, with Korea and others, in order to counteract Chinese activity in the region. But we should also engage with China, which after all is the second largest economy in the world. And we have actually fallen rather behind the Americans, certainly, but also behind the French, the Germans, even the Italians, in terms of our economic engagement with China. So I think that balanced approach is absolutely the right one.